Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Yacono. Amanda Hill is off today. We begin this half hour with the follow-up to a series of stories our Vivian Lee has brought us about the lack of psychiatric and behavioral health facilities for children in Maine. A plan to establish one is moving forward now. Next month, state health officials will meet with behavioral health care providers interested in running the secure facility that will offer 24/7 care. But as Vivian shows us tonight, some advocates say it will not be a silver bullet and more needs to be done to fix a broken system.
Jane Van Bramer is the president and CEO of Sweetser. She says hundreds of children who are and have been stuck in emergency departments across the state because of a chronic shortage of pediatric treatment beds is only one aspect of a growing crisis.
We do know that there are 60, 70 children placed in other states who need this level of care that has not been available in Maine. We also know that there's about 100 children in Maine now waiting on a waiting list to go out of state.
Earlier this month, the Maine Department of Health and Human Services posted a request for proposals seeking to establish a psychiatric residential treatment facility for youth under 21. Those with behavioral health care needs, including substance use disorder. The secure facility would have at least 16 beds with psychiatrists and nursing staff 24/7. The Saco-based behavioral health nonprofit says a PRTF could help bring Maine kids receiving services as far away as Arizona back home.
Active treatment with therapy, med management, family therapy. There are all these services really to help these children recover and be well.
The move by Maine DHHS followed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice when it ended a federal lawsuit that alleged Maine unnecessarily segregated children with behavioral health needs and disabilities into institutions. The landmark decision is expected to create a new system of community-based services. Nancy Cronin, the executive director of the Maine Developmental Disability Council, is concerned that even with a PRTF, kids with the highest needs won't be served.
It's not a high level of care for kids with developmental disabilities. So kids with autism who might have seizure disorder and other medical disorders as well might not be accepted into a PRTF.
Jessica Reed's son is on the autism spectrum. Brody is nonverbal and has severe behavioral needs and other challenges. In the past, he has spent nearly a year waiting for a bed at Spring Harbor Hospital, but when he goes into crisis, his family takes care of him at home rather than have Brody languish in the ER. His family is now considering placing him in a residential program in Maryland, but his mother says a PRTF could help keep him in Maine.
We don't have choices. We don't have options, and he's in a place where he's in distress all the time. We need to figure something out.
With $2 million available from the state to set up a PRTF on its Saco campus, Sweetser is considering retrofitting existing buildings. But only if Maine Care reimbursement rates are sustainable. Those rates are expected to be announced in the second week of January. In Saco, Vivian Lee, News Center, Maine.
Spokesperson for Maine DHHS tells News Center Maine that the department is committed to ensuring comprehensive behavioral health care for children and youth. We will have more on that statement on our website and News Center Maine app. Meanwhile, nearly 150 union workers at DHHS are calling on Governor Janet Mills and Commissioner Sarah Gagne-Holmes to replace the director of the department's Office of Child and Family Services, Bobby Johnson. The employees signed a letter of no confidence which they released today. In it, the employees accused Johnson of being unable to ensure the safety of staff and children who are housed in hotels as the children wait for foster family or other accommodations. The employees say that practice increases the trauma experienced by the children. The letter also claims Johnson has dismissed concerns from staff around scheduling and long hours and has made staffing decisions that harm workers. Commissioner Gagne-Holmes is defending Johnson, telling News Center Maine that the agency recognized no single measure can solve every challenge in a system as complex as child services, but that Johnson's commitment is unwavering. A spokesperson for Governor Janet Mills says the governor has full confidence in Director Johnson. An 82-year-old man from Alford was almost scammed out of $100,000, according to the York County Sheriff's Office. Law enforcement officials say that man got a fake message from the online payment service PayPal, telling him that it had accidentally sent him $100,000. Scammers got him to send the first $50,000 by courier, and then on Tuesday, 3 men showed up in person to collect the other $50,000. What they didn't know was that that man had already called the sheriff's office, who had deputies waiting to arrest them.
You know, I think this is organized crime because we believe that these people traveled from New York specifically to get that money. It's so sophisticated and it's very believable. My goodness, I mean, how many times do we get, an email from PayPal or from another service and we say, oh yeah, no, that's a mistake.
Those 3 men with New York State addresses are charged with theft by deception. They're still being held at the York County Jail, at least until their bail hearing. Funeral services were held just this morning for Sergeant Jacob Walterbeck. He was a member of the Biddeford Police Department who died last week in a car crash on his way home after work. News Center Maine's Alex Haskell was at today's services.
One special quality of Jay's I never appreciated until now, when I think about him, is how he kept getting better. It was incremental and consistent.
Along with his brother, dozens of friends, loved ones, and fellow law enforcement officers gathered here at Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal Parish in Hampton, New Hampshire, to remember the life of Sergeant Walterbeck. He was killed crossing the Piscataqua River Bridge last Thursday during his drive home to Portsmouth after working the late shift. Here in Hampton, a police procession brought Walterbeck's cremains to the church. Inside, his widow, Julie, spoke about seeing qualities of her husband in each of their 3 young children. His brother called Walterbeck honest, compassionate, and generous, saying he was a tremendous force of good in the world. Walterbeck was a member of the Biddeford Police Department for 18 years, holding several roles there, including on its community-oriented policing engagement unit. Mayor Marty Groman says Walterbeck made an incredibly lasting impact on the city.
He'll be sorely missed and long remembered in the city of Biddeford and throughout all of the law enforcement family. So moving and powerful to see how they turned out, and just trying to be a small part of that, and we'll carry his legacy forward for sure.
Those interested in helping the Walterbeck family during this difficult time are asked to make a donation to the Trooper Black Foundation. The Maine nonprofit is giving all proceeds from the month of December to the family. In Hampton, New Hampshire, Alex Haskell, News Center, Maine.
Still ahead right here tonight, the IRS closes an office offering help with taxes, and Maine's congressional delegation is pushing now to get it back open. Plus, redefining the clinical parameters of depression. We will talk about it next. You're watching News Center Maine at 6. Thousands of Mainers suffer from some form of clinical depression, but how that illness is defined is changing. Mental health professionals are now putting less emphasis on how long a person has been experiencing symptoms and more on how intense those symptoms are. And as News Center Maine's Chris Costa shows us in this month's Let's Talk About It segment, clinicians still say the holidays can amplify those feelings of anxiety or depression.
First is the new clinical definition of major depressive disorder. This is the DSM-5-TR. This is the book that defines diagnoses for mental health issues. The new criteria for someone to be diagnosed with depression decreases the amount of time a person must experience symptoms, down from 6 months to just 2 weeks. That's a big deal, according to Amy Barrier, a licensed clinical social worker with Penobscot Community Health Center.
It's now looked at under intensity rather than time period. It's not these arbitrary time frames. It's more who is the person and how are they existing in their body. And that's what's important.
And major depressive disorder is different than seasonal affective disorder, which does not have a diagnosis in the DSM. People experiencing seasonal affective disorder may feel low, but they can still function.
And people with major depression may be able to get up and force themselves to do those things, but it's hard.
Second, the holidays can amplify any current mental health struggles. Barrier says family interactions and financial stress are 2 main reasons. She says it's critical to prioritize your needs, including spending time with people rather than money on gifts.
All of these things that we celebrate are human-made. And so we ultimately can shift time a little bit, and it's okay. And if people want to spend time with us, then they'll make allowances for us. And friends are important too.
So here are some symptoms to look for when it comes to major depressive disorder. Trouble focusing, trouble getting out of bed, trouble doing activities of daily living, such as personal hygiene. And when it comes to getting help, everyone has different needs, but there are some common themes.
Check in on them and be there for them. Because a lot of times that's what's missing, is just knowing that somebody is there and caring for them.
That was Chris Costa reporting. And if you or a loved one is struggling, there are resources to help. NAMI Maine has a teen text number. That is 62640. There's also a statewide crisis hotline. It's 1-888-568-1112. Those phone lines offer 24/7 access to trained specialists. And right now, if you head to our News Center Maine Plus app on Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire, you will find a special Let's Talk About It program. We cover a variety of mental health topics, from kids and teens to parenting and much more. Boy, if you were outside at all today, you felt just how much colder it was out there than the last couple of days. And Keith Carson says the weekend is going to be even colder. His forecast when we come back. And later, how organizations across the state are getting some help now, bringing the unhoused out of the cold.